Good evening, boys and girls and children of all ages. How's everybody doing out there tonight? Boys and girls and children of all ages. There we go. Sorry, I forgot to mute my Twitch stream so I wasn't hearing myself talking. 1 second here. Oh, forgot to move the mic boom. Let's get that taken care of first off. Okay, that should be a little bit better. Welcome back to another evening of painting with the Coffee Baron. Oh, I just realized I forgot to light the candle. Oh well, I'll get to that at some point. Maybe later on if Brush King happens to show up. But in the meantime, all right. Just to make sure, can you guys hear me? Okay, is my volume sounding about all right? Yeah. Keep that hydration nearby. Keep the coffee right there. And okay. I think I am pretty much good to go. Tonight on the painting desk, I happen to have a Nemesis Warbringer Titan that I've been working on for Adeptus Titanicus. I have no idea if this is something that you guys are going to be able to with the way that the light shines off of it. You'll probably never be able to get to see a really good quality shot of it, but my god, it looks so shiny, and I'm so happy with it. I've been doing a lot of work on it recently because I've got a couple of friends that are trying to put together a Titanicus event, so I figured I might as well join if I could. And these things are so big and so broad, they often come across more like a canvas than a miniature. So I've been enjoying trying some new things with them that I've never done before. Gold leafing and mixing my own oil paint for all of the gold trim has been very entertaining. Got a handful of things I might wind up doing with it tonight. At the very least, I wanted to put a little bit of Tamiya Clear Red into one of the areas on here so it would cure by the time that I get to it next. Oh, is that still... No, that's dried now, but doesn't really matter. Okay, so let me start with that. I'm going to take a little Tamiya Clear Red. And I'm going to put a little bit of red inside the armor panel on this. Let me, for the time being, I will take the Titan off of this painting handle first. Get the squishy base and just leave him off to the side. And squish this on in the meantime. Okay, and then should have, yep, there's an empty jar. Is this a fresh one? I think it is, or fresh enough at least. Yes, okay, excellent. And last thing, oh, I almost forgot. Let me grab a jar of the Tamiya thinner. Excellent, okay. If you've never happened to use their paints before, Tamiya is some sort of alcohol-based acrylic. But it's not simply alcohol. There's some other additives that they have in their medium. So their proprietary X20A thinner, this stuff, typically is about the only thing that will thin it down correctly, but thankfully it's very cheap and it goes quite a long ways. So typically that doesn't make too much of a difference. So I think that one's been used for before. But that does mean that it's kind of a pain to clean and thin with anything else, though. So I just try to keep some of that on hand whenever I'm working with it. Water break? Already? Damn, dude, I just got started. Okay. Let's start. First, I'll get a little coffee, and then I'll follow that with some water. Ooh. Oh, God, that tastes like chocolate milk. What did I do to that the other day? Oh, well. Hail hydrate. Ah. There you go. Thank you for that, Law. That's as good a way to start off as any, I suppose. Well, let me get going then. This stuff typically I airbrush, but there are times like this where either after the fact or just by dint of the specific layout of the miniature that I'm doing stuff on, I have to go back in with brush. So let me see how focus is off a little bit. Let me change the focus really quick for you for now that I'm painting. Camera control focus. Okay, I think it was about 30, 35 is what was best previously. So let's see. Okay, focus is good. I don't think I'm going to be able to get a better lighting set up right now because my overhead light had some problems today, but I can bring the light a little further over, and yeah, that should help at least a little bit. Man, that is pretty bright though, so let me take that back down for the exposure. Okay, sorry, I thought I had all of this set up correctly, and I did, but I just didn't hadn't tried with something quite so shiny before I came in today. So, all right, let's get into it and see how it goes. Ooh, thank you for following Huntman. Thank you for following Funtman. Welcome to the madness. I'm not going to be I'm going to try to be somewhat careful, but not really all that broken up if I get this on the sides, because I've been, like I said, I've been mixing the gold pigment into oil paint. Well, just into oil. I mean, like basically making my own oil paint. And my God, what a revelation that has been. That is now the most, the easiest gold paint I have ever used. It goes on so smooth. It looks so pretty when it's going on. Doesn't have too much grit if you don't overload it with pigment. I always love the feeling of painting with this with brush. It feels like I'm painting glass into something. Okay. That's probably just a little bit more in there. Okay, that's probably totally fine. I needed to touch up this area because I had missed with the gold just a bit. So I put a little bit onto the red area. So I'm just going to cover that up really quick with the clear red and let it self-level. Let's see, was there anywhere else I missed? Yes, right in here. Yeah. That's going to be getting a decal at some point on the inside of that, I'm sure, so I want to make sure it's cleaned before I do that. The crotch plate also has some, but I'm not going to worry about trying to fix that. The ones up top, did I miss anything on these parts? Oh, up in here. No, that was pretty light, actually, when I airbrushed it, so I will not fix that area. That is one thing, once I started working with the oil plant. Oh, hey, Thunderclap. How you doing tonight, man? But once I started working with the oil version of this gold paint, the oil paints are extremely easy to... they just wipe off. If you mess up something, you can just take a brush and go wipe it off a little bit. You were looking at a Titan. This is a Warbringer Nemesis Titan for Adeptus Titanicus. It's one of those Titans it's like an in-between of a Warlord and a Reaver Titan. It's got like Reaver arms and a single Warlord cannon on its back, which is what this big-ass thing is. It functions more like an artillery piece. Just a giant mobile artillery church. Oh, evening, Night Owl. Good to see you as well. Okay, now that I got that, I feel like there was some... Oh, yes, I remember what it was. I need to get the clear green and do the same sort of touch-up on the cannon, where I had to replace some of the gold, where it peeled up after I applied it. So let me grab some of that green really quick off of my other desk. Thunderclap Sasquatch. I'm doing okay. Life getting really tired of uncertainty regarding having a home. Yeah, I know that feeling. There was a period where I moved in with one of my friends quite a while back, and it was another one of his acquaintances was living there, and that guy's father owned the house, but they decided they were going to move down to LA. So there was kind of just oh, by the way, we're going to move down to LA in 2 weeks, so we're not going to own this house anymore. We're going to sell this house, so need to get you out of here in 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, there's a sudden scramble to be like, oh shit, can we even find housing in 2 weeks, and so on and so forth. We had a lucky break, and it worked out fine, but if it hadn't, that would have been an interesting period of my life. Granted, I'm sure I could always go back and live with my parents, but that's not always an option for everybody, and particularly not for my friend at the time, who was also out with me. That's one thing about using these Tamiya clear paints. I don't know if you can kind of see with what I'm doing here, but it really doesn't function when you use the brush as a regular paint, as far as like you can't really paint it on. I kind of have to like lay it on, dab it on like this. If you try to paint it, it just pulls it away from where you had just placed it. So in the end, you don't really accomplish much of anything. Let's see if I missed anything anywhere else. Not bad. Okay, let's see how it looks when it's on there, now that I got the red on it. Come on. Bloop. So that's where that fits. Aside from the two little double autocannon things that go in these little holes here, that's, I think, every piece of this Titan assembled onto it. So, I like the finish. Still got quite a ways to go on getting all of the copper and silvers put in as well, but I think that's pretty much everything I need to do as far as the reds and the greens for Solaria. Photoclap Sasquatch. It happened to be a couple of months back. As a result, my family had to split up because the housing market is completely fucked. Doesn't look like we'll be going back to Oregon at this rate. Yeah. Yeah, the West Coast is having all kinds of problems right now. I sympathize with you, man. California and various different places are having serious housing issues. Depends where you live, like everything, but... Ooh. Thank you. I like the scheme. I like the way that it came out. The other Titans I've done before that one are similar, but they're much more of like a marbled look. This one still has kind of a marbled look, but the other ones look more like I did the Gunpla thing where you paint something just completely black, and then the areas where you want the marbling, you just very, very heavily spray silver or some sort of metallic onto it. And you take a crumpled up piece of saran wrap and you just smash it onto those areas. And it will peel up the silver in a pattern that is very marbly. And then after you've done that, you just apply a clear coat of something on top of it. In my case, I did clear coats of the reds and the greens specifically, more than the reds on those ones. That all results from when I was originally looking into playing Adeptus Titanicus, when my friends were getting into it. They were recommending picking a Legio before I started anything else, so I picked Legio Solaria just based on a handful of very, very quick, basic things I read about them, and I misread the description of their armor at first. It's supposed to be mottled green, and I read it as marbled green. So I wound up just kind of going with that and claiming it as my own sort of thing. My first ones are made to look like green marble. This one's made to look like something between mottled and marbled. But either way, I like it. I enjoyed the way that it came out. Okay, so now while that's curing, and while I ponder what I'm going to actually do with it next, I'm going to pick up something else off of my need to paint section of my desk. I've still got those swashbucklers that I was working on from before that are the Italian fencing girls and guys. I've still got plenty of the... I need to do more of the zombies to finish that other Mordheim warband. I've still got the modern-day Germans from the Bundeswehr with the Gladius armaments. What to do? If anything strikes your fancy, just let me know. But in the meantime, I'll just kind of... I'll pick something I think and run with it. This guy I haven't really thought much about yet. This is supposed to be a dreg for the Undead warband, but I enjoyed the... I fucked up and dropped him, and so I kind of messed up his little hat, the brim of his hat, but it's supposed to be like a Bloodborne style hat, I think. Which I've never actually played Bloodborne, but I hear good things about it, you know? I also have, let's see, the 3 zombies I've got left to paint for that right now at least are the Town Crier, the Sister of Sigmar, and then the Langschneck looking kind of dude, the I don't know what they would actually be called at this point, but the Imperial Mercenary, the Reiklander, which I got him prepped already. I might give him a go and test out some of the new army painter paints that I got. Not army painter, sorry, some of the new contrast paints. Because I picked up a handful of them specifically for the purpose of trying them out on Mordheim miniatures, among other things. So, I think I'll do that. Let's see how some of those look on his outfit. I'm going to move those transparent paints back over here into my little paint rack thing. Gonna set this brush off to the side. Set this to be a thinner off to the side. All that Titan stuff can go with the Titan. And what did I do with the burgundy color? Is it here? It's a skin tone. I'll probably need a couple though, so then I'll continue with his skin while I'm doing this. There's those ones. Let's see. I think I found him here. Yes, Sigvold Burgundy. That's the one I tried. Let's see. That's a cool paint scheme. This is for Mordheim? Yes. I mean, that's what I'm going to use it for. You don't have to use it for Mordheim, but yeah. This is the one that I'm thinking of doing some work on right now is this dude. He's some sort of Imperial soldier that is now a zombie. So that's why he's got a broken sword and he's doing the zombie shuffle. Thunderclap. Yeah, everything is for Mordheim if you try hard enough. Well, if you want to play Mordheim, you should just play Mordheim. I know that's that's a bit of a hard sell at times. You got to actually get your get some buddies interested in it, and then get all of the terrain and everything for it to make it worth trying. And then after that, get them to actually sit down and play with you. But yeah, if you're into fantasy at all, and if any of your friends have ever played fantasy, they probably have enough miniatures to do a Mordheim warband. Just kicking around somewhere. That is true. There is the video game version. The video game version is like the BattleTech PC game. It's not an accurate representation of the tabletop game by any means, but it is a very good game, and it captures the vibe of the tabletop version. And that's one of the more important parts to me. Okay, 2 good brushes. 2 medium brushes. I'll actually move these ones over here for now. Use this as necessary for contrast. Oh, let's get that flipped over so I don't accidentally hit that thing with Tamiya. Oh, I didn't even realize you were playing the Mordheim game. Well, if you want suggestions, Darksteel, on places to look for miniatures, there's plenty of places out there. You don't have to use old school Mordheim miniatures exclusively. There's plenty of other stuff. In fact, there are some people that actually make miniatures specifically made to play Mordheim with, or like very clearly made to play Mordheim with. Chet convinced you to play Skaven. We'll see how that goes. Skaven are fun. They're a little stupid at times, but they're fun. Okay, don't mind me. I'm just shaking the shit out of this new contrast paint because they tend to settle pretty damn hard. And then I'm also going to need a green, I think. Orc skin. There we go. But I don't know, maybe not. We'll see. I know I'm going to need at least one other color to go with to go for this guy's like clothing sections. So I'm definitely going to do the Sigvold Burgundy, but I know I'm going to put the burgundy, I think, on his hat and see how that goes, but I'm trying to think of what I want to do for some of his other clothing sections. Whether I want to do like a green or a blue. I could do burgundy and purple. Let me see if there's any official art. Yeah, there's a painted one. Yeah, oh, they just did the same color for all of his clothing and a brown for his hat. That's boring. Oh, they did do green on the, Okay, yeah, I'll just go with that. Photoclaps and Squash. These, no, they aren't legally distinct Mordheim miniatures. They're just generic Renaissance and post-Renaissance Germanic-themed zombie miniatures for all tabletop. Yeah, exactly. You get what I mean. There's a huge demand for this sort of thing. In every fantasy setting. Clearly. Alright, buddy. Hat time. Let's see how you like it. Oh, I think I'm going to need more on the brush. Yes, indeed. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Oops. That's okay.
Hello, hello.
Ho ho ho! Welcome there, King of the Brush. Chat, if you happen to be listening, go ahead and say hello to the Brush King, just so I can know that you actually can hear him and I don't have my settings all fucked up again. Can you hear me right now, Brush King, also?
That I can.
Excellent. Absolutely nailed the setup this time. Vulcan redeemed water break. Okay, give me 1 second, bud. Just gotta... Can't really stop when you're using contrast paint until you get the whole area.
Looks like they can hear me, however they're saying I'm fairly quiet.
Okay. Yeah, I can turn that up easily.
Alright.
Yeah, you sound fine to me. It may have been that I turned the volume down for something with the music last time. Okay, that's good enough on that hat for the second. Let me turn up. Brush King. Okay, go ahead and say something now and see how they think it is.
Alright. How's everything sounding now, guys? Am I still fairly quiet, or is it coming in a little better now? Alright,
Sweet.
looks like I'm getting much better. Alright, we're good to go.
Excellent. Honestly, I'd love more miniatures from that area and other areas. Are you, Oh, like late Bronze Age, and especially I'd like to see some more Native American minis, not just generic Plains Indian. Uh, are you talking like just natives from different cultures as opposed to the Plains, or are you talking like just not generic, like shirtless or mostly shirtless warrior Indians? Um, and Darksteel Arc, was the Orc Warband an official thing, or was it one of the fan warbands made after the game died to GW? It was an official thing. I think the 2002 version of the rulebook with some of the Town Crier stuff already added to it had, I think it was called the Mob Rules with ROZLZ. Um, I believe that was, yeah, that was an official warband, unless you're thinking of a different kind of orc warband. But yeah, they're definitely in there. So, anyways, how's your evening going so far, Brush King?
Good. Just got the kiddo to sleep, so it's been pretty relaxed after the last hectic 24 hours of trying to complete the chicken house.
Oh yeah, the Baba Yaga hut. Did you
Yep,
actually get that
literally,
completely finished?
it was completely done.
Nice.
I finished printing the last piece overnight as somehow missed a single roof section.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the roof portion all assembled yesterday, minus that piece. Got that put in, got that primed, then finished painting everything.
Nice.
I probably painted 90% of that model within the last 24 hours. And that thing is, I think I measured it out, it's about 16 inches tall. So it was a significant amount of work that I managed to just hammer out.
Yeah, I saw that. That thing was huge. Did you say that was for a D&D game or something similar?
Yes, it was for my wife's Curse of Strahd game that she's running. It's
Nice.
currently about to TPK the entire party, it sounds like. They've all made backup characters because they're not
Just in
feeling very
case.
confident.
Nice.
I told her to make sure it lasted at least 2 sessions.
That way you can get your efforts worth out of it.
Yeah, yep, it was I estimated out to probably be about 200 print hours and probably close to probably 50 hours of assembly, prepping, painting, and putting everything together because
Uh huh.
with so many different resin pieces, even though I have my printer fairly dialed in, there's still enough variance that by the time you have that many pieces put together, the point one that every piece is gonna be, different by from the actual like 3D file adds up.
Yeah.
So I had to do a
Yeah.
ton of dremeling. I got to play with gray stuff for the first time.
Hmm.
Pretty much pulled out every little trick I could think of to try and get things to work nice.
I haven't built a big model like that in quite some time, outside of the Titan that I was showing off a minute ago on stream. But even that is not that many parts when you actually get down to it. It's just larger in size than many of the models I'm used to painting. But, um, gosh, what was the last big project I tackled? Nothing I can think of that had quite that many parts. I don't think, except maybe like a B17 that I did years and years ago. Big scale model.
Okay. Yeah, most of my projects don't tend to be something of like this size. It's more of trying to get like an entire playable force done.
Yeah, I saw how quickly you busted through all those Halo Ground Command minis. That was a pretty sizable amount too.
It was, if I recall, because I ran a four-person demo game, so it was about 4,000 points worth total. So
Mm-hmm.
two Covenant forces and two UNSC forces.
Full ones each. Yeah. What? How much of that was 3D printed versus the actual models? I never actually kind of took stock of that.
At this point, probably 90%, if not more, because the only official models I ever got was I got a Gen Con release of the starter box when they were doing kind of like one of those early releases where it was going to come out,
Right.
a month or two later.
Yeah.
And those were the only models I ever got because money's always a limiting factor. And then
None the game
Spartan
died.
just never was able to release a lot for that game before they went under
Yep.
because they
Yeah.
just bit off more than they could chew.
It's sad, but
I,
it happens.
And I think there's honestly only a handful of kits that ever got released after that, full on releases.
Yeah, I remember. Wasn't there a? Did they ever release the Scorpion? I remember
Yes,
that
the
was one of the first
Scorpion.
ones that they were gonna do, but
Yep, the Scorpion was released, and that was it's a single model, but it's able to be utilized as the standard Scorpion or the what is it? The other thing called?
the
It's
Grizzly
got the AA version, so it's just got like two turrets that you can swap out.
was that was the Grizzly from Halo Wars, right?
I don't think it's the Grizzly. I think
No.
it was
Oh,
something else that they called it.
oh well.
A separate vehicle.
Right. Huh. Interesting.
And then the Covenant got their Wraith release. Basically, they released like the opposing kit for both
Right.
factions. So like the UNSC got the ODSTs to drop, and then the Covenant got the Ultras to drop with their drop pods as well.
Right.
I think the
Ooh,
Jackal snipers got put out.
it's a hell of a trip, Vulcan. Where are you heading from? Where are you heading to? Oh, well, you're going to bed though, so don't worry about answering. You have a good rest of your night, man. Um, yeah, man, I should actually probably. I say this when I think of anything, but I just keep going like, man, I should get into freaking ground command at some point. But leaving Michigan to Fort Myers. Well, you have a safe trip, my friend. Try not to do. Try to take things safe and easy if you can. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Yeah, no, I keep telling myself it's like I don't need to, but I keep looking at it going like I should get into ground command at some point. But I have nobody that would play ground command with me, even if I printed out the miniatures for it. Likely,
It's a shame.
I mean, I have friends I could probably press gang into doing it, but none of them that would really be all that interested in it. I'm the only buddy I've got that is like I've got a handful of buddies who were really into Halo back in the day, but not they would not be receptive to playing the war game either because they just don't do wargaming or because they I've got one friend that might be receptive to it if it weren't for the fact that he's basically exclusively a 40k player because that's just sunken cost fallacy essentially. Just the he's already put so much time, effort, and money into a 40k army. He's not going to bother doing the same sort of thing to for any other war game.
I remember those days with the having the blinders on to everything other than 40k.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they're always just fun models to paint, and
Yeah,
they scale up if you prefer to paint them at like a more of a traditional
28 mil or
28.
something. Yeah, I
Yep,
actually Vincent Colborn is the guy that does all of the stuff for Ground Command, right? I think it's his name.
yep. He's been going back and actually redoing the kits, adding more detail for those people that want to scale them up.
Yeah, he when he was very first getting started and had just bought his first like Form Labs and was trying to get into the flow of selling miniatures to people, I bought a couple sets of 28 millimeter versions of the miniatures from him. So I've got a couple of Spartans and some full squad, I think, of ODSTs and some snipers. So
Nice.
they were very
Uh,
well made.
Yeah,
Very.
all those kits have been. I'm not sure if he's redone the Spartans, but I know the ODSTs and all that have been since that point redone with more details
Yeah.
to make them more visually appealing at the larger scale.
I've seen a couple of things in the community files thing that I downloaded and haven't gotten around to painting yet, or to printing and then painting yet, but I am very interested in the. I appreciate the fact that he did the entire cast of Red versus Blue, at least the
Yep,
main cast. So I'd love to go through and paint those at some point. That would be
he's
a
actually
blast.
working on a grunt goblin right now, so that's gonna be really cool.
Eh, I'm still
I know
astounded by the amount of effort that that community has put into keeping that one
this
particular
past
game.
year for April Fool's Day, he had been teasing a scarab leg. And when it actually came out to April Fool's Day, he released the file, and it was literally just the leg.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a phenomenal joke, though. But it also is one of those sort of things where it's like, he's working on the actual scarab, though.
Someday he will have the time to finish that, and we'll actually have a 3D printable scarab, which is insane because of the size of the model
Yeah, in
in
scale.
comparison to the tables. Because they have the guys that run the community for it. When they do like Adepticon or something, they set up the tables. They have one of the Action Clicks scarabs that were produced for a short while, and it literally straddles the entire play space.
Yeah, I remember seeing pictures of it. It's wild.
Because this past year they did the Battle for Harvest as a narrative event.
Mm-hmm. Take notes, aspiring miniature creators. This is how you keep a community running. Even if your game system, or if your company dies.
Don't let that stop you.
Exactly. Well, now that you finished with the Baba Yaga thing, you got anything else on the painting desk tonight, or are you taking a break for a bit?
I think I'm taking a break tonight.
I don't
But
blame you.
a good portion of that is just because most of my paints and supplies are actually on the patio right now. Because
Oh.
I was painting outside so that my dog could hang out,
Oh, nice.
and I'm feeling pretty lazy about going out and collect everything up. I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah. I was thinking of the same, or feeling the same way almost this morning when I got up and had to do the all of my painting stuff, like with the Titan and everything. I've been doing out in the living room because I've just been wanting to be out of my office, but also because I was dealing with oil paints and a whole bunch of other things that I didn't want to have in my general painting area, so I couldn't mix things up accidentally. So I just set up like a secondary thing out there, but I started pulling one thing and then another thing and so on, and kept on um, taking more and more shit out there until I was like, shit, I've basically got to take my whole painting desk and put it back into the office space where I've got the recording setup at. Whoops. Oh, I just realized someone, Vulcan redeemed a water break. I never got to it. I'm sorry about that, Vulcan, if you watch this again. Here, let me make good on that. There we go. Oh, shit. I should have used the other green. Oh, well. He's very green now.
So what are you working on this evening? Is that a
No,
conquistador zombie?
kind of. Yeah, it's one of the set for the Mordheim things. Were you here when I was painting some of the Mordheim miniatures that I've been working on? The
Not
Undead
Mordheim.
Warband?
Not last week, but the last episode here, you were working on bulking out a good portion of your zombicide.
Oh, the Zombicide ones. I forgot about that. Yeah. So
the
most
one you
of what
threw
I've
into
been
a candle.
Yes, I have that right here, right next to the candle. I'm just gonna leave it there for the time being. I think
Still
somebody
covered in
clipped that.
wax?
Yeah, still covered in wax. I don't know if I'm even gonna bother trying to get it off. It's funny to me, and Zombicide comes with so many, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I've got this set from Heresy Labs. I backed their Kickstarter. It was called Witchfire and Sword, and one of the two warbands they had in it was a Bretonnian warband essentially, and an undead warband from Mordheim. So like, what they did with it that I really liked is the undead warband is made up entirely of zombified versions of miniatures from their other lines. So like these are all members of like the citizens. So when you look in their normal citizens lines, like this is the barmaid or the bar wench, this is the butcher, this is just a lady that is like trying to whack somebody with a cat that she has, and so they make zombified versions of it. Here's the same thing: the bar wench with her guts spilling out, the butcher with his guts spilling out. I'm gonna Um, I'm definitely gonna like bloodstain the shit out of him. The cat lady has her cats are come back to life, like the little one that's chewing on her ankle down there underneath her robes, and the one that's on the back is eating her, chewing her brains out and whatnot. So they also included a couple of miniatures that were from some of the other actual like war bands, like these two. So like this is part of their generic mercenaries war band, made to look like Reichlanders or something similar from Warhammer Fantasy, and this is one of the Sisters of Sigmar. So they just don't give them the icons and things like that, but it's like very clear. There's a little comet thing on her hammer. This is supposed to be one of the sisters, just with now her jaw's all ripped out and other little bits that look just kind of zombie-ish. But yeah,
Those are some pretty nice looking minis, not gonna lie.
yeah, and the thing that's nice is both you can buy the actual resin miniatures, but you are also totally able to buy every miniature that they make in STL format. So
Ooh, more companies need to be doing that.
yeah, I appreciated that very heavily. And so it's like this is a great example where I was just like, I would love to have the warband just made for me so I can just get it, put it together, and have fun painting it and not have to worry about dicking around getting extremely crisp settings to get this handful of very nice miniatures to look nice. And then I also got some STL files for some of the other warbands that I just didn't care about getting um, such phenomenal detail on. And yeah, I've got those just sitting around somewhere, but um, they have pretty good pricing on their STLs. So we've got several warbands worth of STL files now just sitting in our hard drives that costed like less than a quarter of the price of actually having the miniatures made for you if you chose to get the resin versions.
Yeah, that is pretty convenient. I'm gonna step away for a moment. The wife needs something, so I will be back shortly.
Yeah, take your time, man. And then there was one. Well, while he stepped away, how's everybody else doing? If you happen to be in a chatting mood. Ah, that's a good reminder. I'm actually going to put on the epidemic sound and flick on some music just to fill the gaps, you know. Okay, there we go. Humid. I'm very humid right now. Yeah, I feel that. I don't personally feel it. I'm not humid in my area. We are one of those places where everybody all year long just goes, yeah, man, but it's a dry heat. As always, let me know how the volume is on that music. If you need me to turn it down, especially in once Brush King comes back, if he does. If it's too loud to hear him talk, just let me know. Every time somebody mentions humidity and not like now is that always sends me thinking back about fucking what the hell was it? Good Morning Vietnam. God, I haven't seen that movie in ages. Should go watch that again sometime soon. Let's see, what else did I miss? There was somewhere on him that was like I could have sworn I forgot to add more Reichland flesh shade to make it look like it was skin. No, I don't see anything. This one arm over there is just bones, so... Oh, maybe that was it. Okay.
Right, I've returned.
Welcome back. All I did while you were away was turned on the music, because I had forgotten that I never turned it on. So... what did I do with my green wash? Ah, here we Dark Steel Lock, I feel like I just got out of the shower for the last 4 days. Yeah. Every time we have rain here, it kind of feels like that, where it's like it goes up to 100% humidity and then just slowly drops over several days, but it never stops being 115. But we live inside of a horseshoe valley area, with the horseshoe being to the south, so the wind just doesn't empty.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a pleasant situation.
Welcome to California. No matter where you are and what your life is like, when you describe how it is in California, most people will almost always say, that doesn't sound particularly pleasant. No, it's not. How's the weather in your neck of the woods right now, Brush King?
It was very warm over the weekend. It's kind of cooled down the last couple days while I was working on the Baba Yaga house. And now that I've finished that project and I'm going to be going back outside to work on building a catio for my wife, it appears the temperatures are going back up, so the weather just hates me.
The weather hates us all, friend. It's a year for... Well, I don't really know what it's a year for. It's just an uncomfortable year for pretty much everybody. Yeah, thankfully we've been dropping back down to where our high is only about 100 to 105 right now. Most days. Sometimes we have down in the 90s, but most of the time it's still up 100, 110.
Yeah, that's pretty high. I will admit it has not been nearly as bad as that.
You probably have humidity to deal with.
It did rain a bit over the weekend, so
Yeah.
It was very humid the last day or two.
Oh.
But it's clearing up a bit now, so that's nice at least.
I don't think we'll see rain in our area for probably another... probably not until like late October. But
Oh, wow.
we'll see. Dark Steel, I used to live in California. You can bake grilled cheese in the hood of your car for 3/4 of the year. Yes, I have baked cookies inside my car. By putting them, you just take some cookie dough and you put it on a greased pan, and you put, usually you put a little bit of tin foil just kind of like around it, so that it also directs some of the heat into it, and then you put those onto your dash, and you just leave the front of your thing open and you go shopping. And when you come back from shopping, yeah, all the cookies have been not entirely baked. Obviously, it doesn't get to be 400 degrees inside your car, but it gets to be enough to mostly bake them.
That is a sign that you are just not meant to live in that area.
Yeah, right?
That is just... It's like nature is trying to tell you, don't go here.
Yeah, you get a 1/4 inch of snow every 4 years for exactly 3 hours. Yes, except for we did have an oddball sort of thing happen because we are decently high altitude in our area, but we just don't get much snow because there's just not enough humidity in the area. But a couple of years ago, we had this thing happen that everybody has started calling the snowpocalypse, where it just all of a sudden kind of didn't get to like blizzard conditions, but it was just like 3 days straight of just ludicrously thick snow downpour. But the city's not really set up for that, by which I mean like the trees that we plant and the way that we construct things and what people are like arranged to expect isn't prepared to hold that much volume of snow. So throughout the entire city, it's like there were about 3/4 of the city didn't have power because trees kept on falling down on every single street and taking out the power lines, because the power lines aren't made for that sort of thing either. And it caused all kinds of chaos. My mom got really lucky. There was a tree at her neighbor's across the street fell down, and it fell down and whipped right into and through her car, like straight through the back window and through the front window. But if it had been just like a couple of feet to the left, it would have done that to their living room window and just gone straight through them, because they were sitting at the couch by that window right at that time period. But all kinds of stuff where it's just like places where subdivisions, there were like 8 trees piled up at the exit to the subdivisions. People couldn't leave, so on and so forth. The whole town just shut down for like 3 days. And then it just stopped. And then we haven't had snow since. It's kind of stupid the way that it works in reality, but, you know, what are you going to do? Let's see. What did I do with my Fire Slayer flesh? That's my leather color. Side brown. Sneak bite. There we go. Okay, gonna add a little bit of that Fire Slayer flesh to the belts and straps and whatnot. Because this stuff makes excellent leather. Don't know why.
What color is that?
It's Fire Slayer flesh. It's supposed to be like the dwarf flesh tone, but if you apply several layers of it on something that you've kind of done like what I did where I highlighted everything by doing the dry brushing, several layers of it will make something that looks convincingly like a very worn brown leather. Let me see, I don't think I have anything that I've done it on right next to me, but you'll see once I kind of get these finished.
Okay. Is that a, that looked fairly thin, is that a wash?
Yeah, it's a contrast paint.
Contrast?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's supposed to be the contrast paint that you use for like dwarf flesh tone. And to be fair, if you did one coat of it, yeah, it would be great for that. I'm sure they call it Fire Slayer because the Fire Slayers is that the Age of Sigmar faction that are all the Slayer dwarves, so they're all like half naked. So this would work really well if you were trying to speed coat one of those armies, because this is like the color that 3/4 of them are just going to wind up this color anyways. Like 3/4 of each miniature, I mean.
Yeah, that definitely speeds things up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those sort of things where it's like the application of it makes whatever you're painting look kind of goofy for the first like 3 or 4 coats sometimes, but then after you hit that point it starts to actually kind of start looking right and you're like, oh, there it is. It also makes an excellent like suede or deer hide sort of color if you go very, very thin with it.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of paintings like that. That's probably one of the hardest things for me to really do to help improve my painting, was just relax until it's done.
Yeah.
Because nothing looks good halfway done. You kind of just, because you're always comparing whatever you're doing to finished products. So it's never gonna go well in your head, and then you get there halfway, and you're just nothing comes together, nothing looks right.
I think I remember a couple of YouTubers referring to it as the ass phase, where it's like every model you do at some point, you're gonna hit a point where whatever you're doing just looks like ass until you actually fully finish the whole thing and get it to where it's supposed to be. And then it'll all kind of tie together. But non-metallic metal is kind of notorious for that, where it's just like it doesn't look right whatsoever until you're in like the last 10% of what you need to do to it, where it's just refining at that point. So it's like you basically have to completely finish the miniature, or finish all of what you're doing with that technique on the miniature before it even starts to look good in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I've never touched non-metallic metal. I just, unless you're doing like a competition piece or something for display, I don't think it really does much. I don't really like how it looks for like an army.
Right. No, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
Particularly considering the fact that in many cases it doesn't look it really only kind of looks good from one angle depending on how you apply it. But it also...
That's the reason I dislike it for an actual like play army.
Right.
That's going to be moving around on in a battlefield of some sort.
Yeah, you can't guarantee that it's always going to have the same directional look. Yeah, no, that's like I'm considering doing some non-metallic metal on these guys, but it's just because it's like there's not much to do. Most of them don't have any metal, like they're not wearing any metal. The only metal that they have is just like, oh, the barmaid has her little knife, and the butcher's got his cleaver. Like, this is the only guy that's seriously got a bunch of metal all over him. And there's a bunch of different surfaces, and there's very clear-cut, like, bumps and texture on it. So it's not like you're doing it's not like I'm trying to do non-metallic metal on a Space Marine. It's something where I think I would have a relatively easy time just doing some transparent paint over the top of what's here already, and then adding a little bit of shading and a little bit of highlighting, and then just going from there. So I would be intrigued to try it this time around. But yeah, every time that I've tried it on various different things in the past, I've had mixed success. The only time I enjoy doing it is when it's like a stylized thing, when I'm trying to go for like an anime look, which I have had a little bit of success and had some fun doing for, like I was kind of testing it out on some BattleTech miniatures, trying to do like a Gundam / Robotech inspired sort of thing with the yellows. And I wound up painting over it, but it was still kind of fun to do. And it did kind of look a little bit neat, but that particular like anime cartoony style really, really heavily relies on black lining. So you got to do your whole painting thing, and then afterwards you have to go back and perfectly apply black lines to the recesses and every edge of every surface. Otherwise, it doesn't sell the effect.
That is something I'd actually be interested in trying to do a bit more with, just because I think that would make some Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Oh, absolutely,
look amazing. Because I've seen people who are good at that style paint their minis like that.
Oh, I heard a fart. I heard a fart. Fries, what are you doing? Thank you for helping out. Thank you for the subscription. They're subscribed for 5 months. Well, welcome, Fries. Good to see you also. I like black lining. I only learned it in the last year. Yeah, I really like the effect. It's just, depending on the miniature that you're doing, it can really be a pain in the ass to try and apply.
Also, depends what you're using to kind of try and do that black line effect, because there are some, I watched I'd have to track down the video, but I watched the video go over several different ways to do like panel lining, depending on what products you used, and some of them made it go fairly easy.
Yeah, so for panel lining specifically, my personal favorite is to me is panel line accent. It's basically just an oil wash inside of a bottle, or enamel to be more specific, but yeah, that's lovely stuff, because you just apply it and clean up after it essentially, and it just shoots right through. Use an ultrafine drafting pen for that, makes it a lot easier. Yeah, I've used those in the past. I just don't have any on hand right now, and my problem with them was always if you don't use a brand new one, I started having problems with, like, I was losing track of which ones I was using for drafting, and I would often wind up starting and then not having it, like, kind of having it start to run out of ink a little bit. And also, depending on the finish that you have, they don't always, the finish of the paint that you are trying to paint on top of sometimes can make it to where either they won't grab at all or they'll bleed a lot. So I just had a rough time trying to figure it out, but that was quite some time ago. I might be a little bit better at it now, so I wouldn't mind giving it a go at some point. Okay, I think I'm gonna do just a little more of that, just to darken it. Yeah, let me go a little heavy now that it's kind of got the color. I've heard good things about the Gundam pens also, and I've seen some people do some really ludicrous stuff. Whoa, shit. Okay. I've seen some people do some pretty ludicrous paint jobs with, not paint jobs, but just like art jobs with the Gundam pens on Gundams before. But many of them are like people who are very clearly have a lot of knowledge about comic and anime style drawing already. So it's not the product doing it, it's the fact that they know exactly what they need to be doing with it at any given time. And that's where I kind of fail, because I'm just not very familiar with those art styles already in the 2D form. Okay, almost done with these straps here. I'm just going for what I think is going to be the last run. Okay.
I think the next project I'm going to be working on mini-wise is probably going to be a Diorama Commission that I was asked to do when I had some free time.
Oh, nice.
I think that's going to be a fairly fun one because that's all using 3D printed alternative models from the Maker's Cult. So it's going to have...
Maker's Cult makes good stuff too.
Yep. It's going to have one of the big cannon mechanical Tyranids breaking through a Imperial Guard line with their Valor Corps models.
I think I remember seeing you painting up some of those Tyranids in the past. Also, There you go. Now that I'm finished with it, you can kind of see... Is that zoomed in alright? Or... Focus... That's probably right. Probably a little bit dark, but you might be able to kind of see what I was talking about with the leather straps now. Where it's like it highlights the edges with a nice kind of orangey brown tone, but then does a very deep, darker brown in the centers. So
I'm not quite seeing it through the camera, but I do see that does indeed look like a leather belt.
Well, good enough for me. I might need to adjust the focus, actually. Let me do that, make it a little bit closer to the camera, because I'm trying to hold it up higher now. Okay. That should be a little bit better. The exposure might still not really do me any favors, but...
Okay, I'm seeing it there.
Oh shit, this guy is mostly just metal outside of the, you know what I can do? I can just get his bones really quick. Put that in this atomic array. Here we go. Let's see, the Night Owl. I used to have a set of gunpla pens. They worked well on larger scales. For the models, they were clearly molded and inscribed panel lines. I've had good results with black ink and then cleaning up the panel edges. Yep, that works pretty fine for me usually as well. The black ink, if you're careful with it, or like I said, the panel line accent stuff from Tamiya and similar products are essentially just an ink or enamel. Oil, that's the term I was looking for. They're essentially just an oil wash in a bottle. So it's kind of nice because they clean up very, very easily with mineral spirits. So after you've applied everything, you can go back with a Q-tip with mineral spirits and just very gently rub on it, and it'll just pick it right up.
That's definitely something I'm going to be playing around with the mineral spirits at some point in the future. I picked up the AK Interactive Grimdark in a Bottle product.
The Streaking Grime?
Yep, I'm actually pretty excited to try it out on something. It's been hyped up pretty good.
It's one of those sort of things where a lot of people will also complain about it just because it became somewhat ubiquitous that suddenly, like on Instagram and whatnot, the term Grimdark now means paint a miniature the normal way and then slather it in Streaking Grime and you're done. But it does a good job at what it does. It does a very good job at what it does, and what it does is, well, yeah, it's Grimdark in a bottle, man. I'm not going to argue that point. I love the effect that it gives, especially on vehicles. Especially on like yellow or orange or other like very warm tone vehicles. I love the way that it shades everything. Sorry, I'm kind of going off camera here. There we go.
I'm excited to try it out. I gotta decide what I'm going to use it on, though.
Mm-hmm.
So many of my projects are projects that I've already partway through, so I don't want to drastically change my methods halfway through.
Yeah, I know that problem. I was thinking about trying to use it on these guys to knock down some of their vibrancy, but I don't know. I really enjoy the contrast of having the very dead flesh that I've kind of come up with contrasted against their extremely flashy and lively outfits. Come on, get in there. Okay, that's probably enough of the Miskatonic. Oh, right, I got his little... He's got a little bone thing down here in the bottom. Like a bone sticking out of his leg or something. Not really sure what. Okay. There we go. Let me add a little bit of Magos Purple into some of the areas where I want a little bit of blood pooling. Good.
I just noticed that are all those miniatures for that game on square bases?
Yes, from Mordheim.
Okay. It's kind of interesting to see something still using a square base for that scale.
Frankly, it's not necessary to have square bases from Mordheim. Nothing in the rules requires them, and but it's mostly just a matter of tradition at this point. And functionally, I guess it is kind of useful in that they are smaller profile than the standard circle miniatures for like 40k stuff. Like if you take one of the Necromunda minis I got here and you compare, it's like there's the footprint of that, and here's the footprint of this. It's got the corners just barely hang off, but you're not having all of this extra rim around here. And that can matter in Mordheim logistically for the fact that you're typically playing in extremely dense urban areas that are very ruined. And so you'll have a lot of just shit on the ground when you're moving your miniatures around. On the table, I mean. usually a lot of like rubble and bricks and things if you're playing on a table like that. So it's nice to be able to have a like as small a base as possible, just so you're not fucking around with your model getting hung up on everything all over the place. But yeah, it's mostly just that is purely a tradition thing for most people because all of the Mordheim stuff was Warhammer Fantasy miniatures. So they just provided them with square bases because that's what Warhammer Fantasy bases came with. So everybody does it that way. And it has an undeniably retro feel to it. So it's kind of just like a point of pride for a lot of people where it's like, this is clearly, when you put it on the square base, that you can totally tell that this is not your average modern day fantasy thing. Do you have some cool Weirdstone tokens? So I don't have any made up right now, but I absolutely do. I just got them in this thing or they're in another. Let me see. Okay, I must have moved them to one of my other boxes. I've got, do I have some of the miniatures here? I might. Let me check something really quick. Yeah, give me 1 second to grab something else really quick. Okay, so I've got these, I got a couple of different bags at one point of, different, glow-in-the-dark rocks and from like Michael's at Halloween time, and what I found that they were essentially what they are is just kind of green tinted little some sort of crystal looking sort of thing, but they put a glow pigment onto them, and so when you light them up quite a lot with any sort of like standard light, they glow a little bit. But what I've done is what I've done and what I plan to do to make some Weirdstone tokens is put those on the bases and also paint an object source lighting effect on them. But then on top of that, I also went and got some of this stuff from the guy's name is Stuart Semple. He's a British kid who's making pigments and paints and different things like that, and he specializes in specialty sort of stuff. So he's got this product called Lit, which is just an extremely high quality glow in the dark pigment powder, which let's see what happens here if I turn off the, I don't think you can see that right now, but if I turn off the light, oh right, I forgot about this one. Doesn't show up all that well, but I've got the exposure turned down quite a lot. So anyways, it's a pigment powder that is extremely glow in the dark to the point that if you shine an extremely bright light on it, you can even see it glowing just with your naked eye in daylight. So I've taken these guys as an example. These are some of the Sepulchral Guard from Games Workshop, and I put those little stones down on there, but then I also painted on the object source lighting onto them to make them look all, you know, radioactive, ghostly lit by the rocks as if they were Weirdstone. So when you take pictures the right way at night, they really do look like they're being lit from underneath when you have the pigment powder applied to that. So I'm going to basically do the exact same sort of thing, where I'm going to make some nice little tiny little scenic token sort of things with some of those glow-in-the-dark rocks on there, but I'm also going to add tons of the Stuart Semple pigment powder onto them so that they will actually glow in the daytime with a glow-in-the-dark effect, as well as having the OSL painted on them.
Okay, that's a pretty cool idea.
Mm-hmm. That way, if you have bright light on them and you lose track of where they're at, you can actually just turn off the light and you'll be able to see where you put them on the board. Let's see, the Night Owl. Back when I still played GW games, Mordheim was all 25mm round bases because it was all Warhammer Fantasy Battle Skirmisher and Hero Minis, which came with round bases instead of the square bases for ranked units. Some of them, yes, but not all of them. Like when they first released Mordheim, that was actually the first. The Mordheim kits that came with the actual Mordheim box where I believe they were the first multi-part plastic model kit that GW created because they were using it as a test bed prior to moving like the Space Marines and things over to that technique, trying to move them away from monopose plastics and metals. So I think that those ones still came with square bases. Many of them did because they were not actual Warhammer Fantasy Battle Skirmisher units. Many of them came as regiments, but some of them were. So when you bought Mordheim box sets of miniatures that did exist within other armies, yes, they did come with round bases. So, just depending on the ones you got. Yeah, before they made the box set. Yep. I'm gonna hydrate of my own volition. Okay, what next? I think I'm gonna leave him to the side for now. What I did want to do a little bit of prep work on for the next one, because I want to look up some non-metallic metal stuff for him in the future. Let's see, what else can I do? So I can do a face on one of the Chaos people. I can do more prep work on these Mordheim ones. Do I feel like painting a face? That's the question.
Does anyone ever feel like painting a face?
Oh god, I so rarely do. Sometimes I get a bug and I just really feel up to it, but not always. And this one's in a really awkward position on top of everything else, where it's like her face is completely turned to the side. Whoops, sorry about that. Yeah, her face is like completely turned to the side and completely like blocked by her shoulder piece with the bare fur and whatnot. So I'm kind of back and forth. It's like, yeah, what do I want to do with that? But also need to highlight her armor at some point. No, I think I'm gonna save my brain power and do something unoriginal and just do some quick dry brush to prep these guys for the next time that I feel like painting one of the zombie minis, because each one of these other two guys I've got here I can pretty much take start to finish on stream in one evening, I would think. So I need my Glacier Blue. What did I do with it? Ah, there we go. See, back then Mordheim was a box and a book and a couple of special metal hero minis that carried the Mordheim branding. Everything else is repurposed metal minis. Yeah, it took a little bit for him to get things set up. Okay, Glacier Blue.
So do you have any jets painted yet?
I've got one that I started painting but haven't gotten too terribly far on it. Let me see here. It's with my Battletech stuff because it's in the same scale roughly. Two of them actually. I forgot about that. Well, in that case, 4 technically. So the first things that I printed when I was just trying to get a couple of minis for myself that I could possibly do some playtesting with for my thing were I printed up a couple of F4s and some big 21s, because that is literally like the most basic bitch like Jet Age matchup that everybody wants to see when they talk about Jet Age combat, is sticking a MiG-21 up against a F4. But I also printed out some Su-25s. So the Su-25s I did with just their generic, exactly the paint scheme you'd expect out of one of them, where I did the little kind of sky blue, gray sort of thing from the bottom, and then the mixed camo on top. Um, and I just didn't really care too much about weapons at this point, so I just didn't bother to put them on there. And then the F4 was before I decided I was going to try and do the whole system thing. I was just going to try and do like a little custom hack job campaign with Crimson Skies. So every one of my players was going to have like their starting plane I offered to print and paint for them if they wanted me to. And so one of them just asked me to do some sort of like silver and blue on an F4. And that's how it came out. I used some masking tape to mask off a couple of different areas, and then just did some very gentle transitions from like a deep blue to a very bright sky blue. So that one was pretty fun. And again, I just haven't touched these in a while because I was originally intending to use them for something and then stopped because I realized that I wanted to kind of like heavily tweak the system instead of just trying to do a quick hack job thing. So I haven't bothered to make any more progress on the campaign side of it. But yeah, that's all I've printed up and painted out so far. Haven't touched them in a while.
Got a handful of jets painted as well, but they're all 3mm.
That's small. These ones I think were like 1 to 350 scale. So 3mm would be something like 1 to 600 or so, right?
Yeah, 3mm is 1 to 600. 6mm is 1 to 300. So yours would be slightly larger than 6mm.
Slightly smaller.
Or smaller. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was. I was thinking about doing 6mm when I was printing these, but then I started looking at the size of like if I wanted to put a B-52 in or something like that. If I was gonna do 1 to 300, they're gonna wind up being like this fucking big, like.
That's why you guys go with the 3mm. I got a pair of warthogs in my hand, and they take up no space.
I had thought about doing something 3mm also, but it was just a matter of like the individual planes. Then I felt wouldn't have quite as much impact for like my friends enjoying painting and things like that. And I also wanted to use the I'm going to be using BattleTech hex sheets just to do playtesting and things on. So I was kind of looking for some sort of middle ground where it would just fill a hex sheet, or fill a hex on a hex sheet, but not be so big as to make larger aircraft just non-viable. So there's kind of some back and forth on that for me, and that's why I just 1 to 350 was just a simple number for me to remember and for me to calculate out when I was doing the print scaling and settings. All I'm doing here for anybody actually paying close attention is just giving this guy a nice little dry brush. Come on. There we go. Okay, there we go. Let's see. I just get a weird feeling when things that started after I left a hobby/game is referred to as rich. Well, I'm sorry, man. Time marches on. That's one of those sort of things where it's not up to me to determine what is retro. It's up to, well, at this point, the internet. I do know that feeling, though. I am just starting to get to the point where the things that I started the game with are now being referred to as retro, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Wargaming in general, I mean.
Luckily, nothing that I've played is considered actively called retro as far as I'm aware. Even though everything that I started wargaming in is now several editions past the rules I initially learned on.
Yeah, that's...
I got into 40K with its 5th edition. War Machine was still on Mark II, which they're gearing up to drop Mark IV.
Yeah, that's... I started around the same point where I was like tail end of 4th edition, beginning of 5th edition. And so it's like, it's not to the point that it's truly being called retro yet, but people are referring...
far removed from the current...
Yeah, it's getting called different things.
Players.
It is still getting called different things like classic Warhammer or Old Hammer or so on and so forth. It's starting to be referred to as that era. Or like they're just kind of divvying it up into modern wargaming and not modern wargaming. Nobody's calling it retro yet, but...
It doesn't help that since 8th edition, just the mechanics of 40K have changed fairly drastically.
Yeah, exactly.
Compared to those older editions. They're entirely a different beast. So it's very easy to just think of them as just old.
Right. Oh, Cake Boss redeemed water break. Give me 1 second, my friend. I just got some paint on this brush. I want to get it on the miniature before I bother taking the water break. There we go. Please make sure not to drink from the paint water. Well, don't worry about it. I can just drink from the mushroom water instead. 1 second, just kind of stir that lovely broth around. Coffee has water in it, right? Okay, going for the other one now. The actual water. Here, let me make sure you hear this nice and good, huh? Come on, just... There you go, Cake Boss. Was that what you were looking for? Okay, microphone
definitely
back in
sounded
place.
refreshing to me.
The stream, Orc Slayers, is going hydrated. And it's about all I can say positively about it. Okay, how about... Oh, I never put you on a base. Well, let me rectify that for the purpose of ASMR drinking via straw. Oh my friend, there was no straw involved. Just that, straight from the tap. Okay, you will get squished down on here, and hopefully I will not remove any paint from you, metal model. Ooh, excuse me. This is the guy that I was going to, when I play Mordheim, he's going to be my necromancer. The joke, but also real backstory that I came up with for him is just that he's a desperate wannabe vampire from one of the, not really cults, but just one of the, the underground groups of people that are into other weird, hedonistic sort of things and think being a vampire would be cool. And it's always Marienburg or something like that. Marienburg or Altdorf. But the way that I play it is just that he probably stumbled upon a real vampire who is the actual leader of my warband, and she thinks that he's fun to fuck with, so she tells him, oh yes, but if you want to be a vampire, I'm going to have to train you in all kinds of different things, and you have to wear a very specific outfit. It's a vampire outfit. We all have to wear it, when we're developing our skills and so on and so forth, and she just makes him dress like a fucking Party City, like, Halloween costume vampire. Like the, picture of the vampire of picture of the outfit of someone that says, bleh! And that's what I'm going to try and paint him like. So.
That makes me think of that one satire kung fu movie.
Kung Pao?
Yeah, Kung Pao.
I haven't watched that in so long.
Where they have Betty. They're like, we just trained Betty wrong.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because it's funny.
Make fun.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I was picturing. The actual vampire that I'm going to use is, I'll dry brush her next, but she is, the model I'm using for her is a, one of the Pathfinder iconic models, where they made miniatures, based on the artists for the Pathfinder, rule books use, anytime that there's a cleric, they have, a cleric example character that they have a character design for. So they always draw the same cleric character as, the iconic cleric anytime that they need to put a cleric in the art. And the same thing for every class. There's an iconic fighter, there's an iconic barbarian, so on and so forth. The one that I got is the iconic swashbuckler. And she works very, very well for a young vampire, I think. Because keep in mind, this is Mordheim we're talking about, so it's the vampires that get sent to Mordheim are hot shit, but they're just doing all that they can to please Daddy Vladdy. They are not hot shit. They are very bottom of the totem pole of the of vampire society. Otherwise, they wouldn't be slumming it in getting their throats cut in fucking Mordheim. So I like to play that conceptually as yeah, she thinks she's hot shit, but she's not. She's just some dumbass that got bit and is a little bit quicker on the draw than most everybody else in Mordheim, to start. But the first game that I played in a campaign recently, one of my friends killed my vampire girl with a Youngblood, the weakest person in his warband, with a dagger, the weakest weapon in the warband. It was a very... and then afterwards in the injury, I actually rolled death, so...
That's pretty rough.
Yeah, no. It worked out totally fine because it's the first game, so you can basically just say I restart and start with a new warband. That's just the same warband, but written up again. So fluff-wise, we just said it was I can just rebuy the vampire eventually, and if she dies again, I can just rebuy her, and the explanation is if she actually gets killed, it takes us a very long time in her coffin, and a lot of weirdstone and other things have to be applied to kind of make it so that she can fully pull herself back together again. So that can explain a very long absence and then a return of the exact same vampire instead of me going and buying a brand new vampire. So.
First game I ever did of Frostgrave, I did a demo with a couple of buddies where we did a 3-way game.
Mm-hmm.
And my
my wizard, my warband leader, ended up dying.
Permanent death?
Yeah, like the actual permanent death result after the game, and it was just terrible luck, because the odds of that are pretty small.
Yeah. The thing that I like with Mordheim specifically is just the fact that it's kind of just got that vibe, and so it makes it, because of the kind of theme and the mood of the game, it makes it a lot easier to accept things like that and shrug and just go, well, hey, that's Mordheim, baby. Shit happens in Mordheim. Whereas in a lot of other things, it's just kind of like, you always hate to see your warband leader die in something else, but it's like, things are so fucking cutthroat and bottom of the barrel in Mordheim that, yeah, shit really does just happen, and sometimes people just die in just very ignominious ways. So it's kind of like adds to the fun to roll with it on occasion. But let's see. Darksteel, I always wanted to play Warhammer Fantasy. I had the 6th edition starter set and the Battle for Skull Pass starter set, and I was slowly painting them, waiting for the time when I could find someone interested in playing. Then they pulled the end times, and I lost all enthusiasm, and then I saw the initial release of Age of Sigmar and despaired. I know that feeling. That was exactly when I was trying to get into Warhammer Fantasy. I'd been playing 40k for a while, and so I started making a Warhammer Fantasy Undead army, and then the end time stuff started coming out, and I didn't really get what was going on. I was like, okay, interesting. Some core rules changes, some bigger battle options, I guess. And then the world literally ended, and the game literally ended, and it was no longer supported by Games Workshop. And I was sitting there with like a third, like a half-built, a third-painted Undead army. Never got a game in of Warhammer Fantasy with the actual models I was painting. And I was just like, okay, cool. So I just sat on them, and my friends and I were just kind of like, okay, we'll just... Recently, we just pulled it out again and just said, okay, let's just do some Mordheim first, and then we'll lead into playing some actual, like, 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy, because really there wasn't much wrong with that system.
Makes sense.
Thunderclap Sasquatch. Yeah, if anyone ever doubts how bottom rung Mordheim vamps are, they need to look at the stats they get in the roleplay system. Yeah, exactly. That, or even just compare it to the basic stat line for a standard vampire, not even a vampire lord, but a regular vampire in standard Warhammer Fantasy, and realize that like all of their stats are 2 to 3 higher than what you get in Mordheim by default. It's the equivalent of going from like guardsman to space marine captain from regular Mordheim vampire to a standard vampire. Yeah. She'll be fine. Just needs a nap and a weird stone to blood smoothly. Oh god, can you imagine like they would do that too? Fucking like weird stone and blood margarita. I could totally see that being a thing where you just like you get the blood margarita and then you just like do the margarita glass thing with the crushed up weird stone instead of salt.
Sounds tasty.
Darksteel Arc. I've heard the Age of Sigmar is much better now, but I hate the aesthetics. I hate the feel of the whole thing. Yeah, I am kind of with you on that. I appreciate some of what they've done. And now that I understand kind of the place that the game has, it doesn't speak to me because I don't really care much for... it's epic and mythological fantasy now, not high fantasy and low fantasy or something similar like what we had with Warhammer Fantasy, but it focuses very heavily on like the mythological, like Greek and Roman epic myths and like Viking epics and similar things. That's much more the element of fantasy they're trying to pull from rather than historical and high fantasy a la Tolkien. And I get that now, and I appreciate that now. However, I just don't really care much for that particular thing anyways. Like, I was never really a huge fan of God of War. I was never really a huge fan of Clash of the Titans and so on and so forth. I don't get hard when I see 300 to the same extent that many people do. So it just never really clicked for me either. However, what I will say I really like with Age of Sigmar, system aside, because actually there's the system for Age of Sigmar, I agree with you. I've heard very, very good things about it, just being extremely well made. But what I do like about Age of Sigmar is the fact that it opens you up especially in Warcry, which I love. That's what my Chaos miniature are for, is Warcry, is that if you ignore most of like the meta plot and all of like the shenanigans going on in the stories that they're constantly telling through all the new releases, and you just use it as a bedrock for your own playground, it is the most like heavy metal fantasy. And by heavy metal, I mean both heavy metal like, you know, Motorhead and Dio and Judas Priest and everything like that. Like it can feel like a heavy metal album cover, but also like heavy metal, the magazine and the movie. Like if you play it right, especially when it comes to Warcry, where it's like a heavy metal chaos rumble inside the realms of chaos, you can do a lot with both the system and also with like the miniatures and models that they have if you view them more as a palette and a platform than the way that we normally look at miniatures of like, oh, I'm choosing this specific faction for their lore and the way they look when most people paint. No, if you look at it in a completely different way, you take the miniatures and models that exist and the extant game systems, you can have some real fun with it that you can't really find most anywhere else. Many other people do similar things, but not quite the way that it does. And that's usually like the credit I give Games Workshop is they do what they do better than anybody else does. Nobody else does what Games Workshop does quite as well as Games Workshop does, typically. But doesn't hold up quite so much when it comes to Warhammer 40k, but for the Age of Sigmar, yeah, it's pretty interesting. NPC 2117, it is I, the one and singular NPC. Well, then what does NPC stand for, I have to ask. Master player character? I'm trying to think of something. But... come on. I'm trying to get out my brush cleaner for this dry brush, because I think I'm done with the dry brush for the time being. And it is a little nasty looking. Just gotta get that swirl going. Just like mixing up that shaving cream. There we go. Oh man, you know what I should have done? I'll do it next time. I forgot. I watched. I hadn't seen the Rambo movies in a real long time, so I watched the first two of them the other night. I have from Mad Robot Miniatures. I've got a couple of. I've got his Guardsman Marbo miniatures. That one of them is very clearly like a much more of like a Rambo XP. It's really nice. Comes with the compound bow and everything. NPC, it's just my initials. IR simple, man. I can appreciate that. Okay, let's see. Where we're gonna go next? Now I stop and ask myself the question once again. Do I feel like painting a face tonight or no?
I imagine the answer's still probably no.
Yeah, you're correct on that one. I'm also just kind of like, I keep looking at these miniatures that I've made for Warcry, these chaos things. What I tried to do with what my friend has this headcanon he came up with a while back, that the entirety of Age of Sigmar is actually just the psychic manifestation of the Emperor's battle with the Emperor on the throne in 40k, his battle with the Chaos Gods inside the Warp and in the Empyrean. And Age of Sigmar is just like basically the fight as it happens inside of his head. So literally, Stormcast are just the psychic representation of the Space Marines and so on and so forth. So we like to toy around with it. For the Warcry Warband, all of my Warcry stuff has little bits included from like they're predominantly like, this is a Stormcast model that I turned into a Chaoscast model, but I also gave her a chainsword and Sister of Battle backpack and flamers, so that it makes her look more like implemented like Fallen Sisters. But I'm just kind of like at a point where I'm looking at these guys and I've got them started. I was going for the whole black metal thing, but I keep on hitting points where I'm just like, I don't really know what I even want to do with these. How do I want to color the horse? How do I want to color the... what do I want to do for the cape and everything else? I'm so tempted in the original thing to just go, oh, let's just make them like entirely black, like Black Knights, but that's so much black, you lose definition of what's what. So, not really at a loss of how to paint them, I'm just kind of at a loss of how exactly I want to proceed with them as they are at the moment. But what else can I do right now? I think the Titan is probably going to be fine for the evening. So let me check on time and see where we're at. How long I've been going? About 2 hours?
It is midnight. Well, midnight my time. I forget what time zone you're in.
I'm Pacific, so it's 10:04 right now.
Okay. It's midnight for myself. I'm actually gonna let you go. Let you finish the rest of your stream.
Okay. I actually think I might just sign off right now myself. I got most of the core things that I wanted to try finished right now, and I don't know. I'll see what I can come up with for next time. I didn't really have anything specific planned for the evening, so maybe I will actually try to get something specific for that.
Fair enough. Next time I'll probably be a little better off. I'm a little zoned out after the mega hobby marathon here.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I had a really, really long day at work anyways, so I was kind of zoned out myself, and I've got a very long day tomorrow, so I probably should go get to sleep instead of continuing with the coffee for the time being. So, well, thank you for joining me, Brush King, and thank you all in chat for joining us for this evening as well. I hope you enjoyed yourselves as much as I did, or more.
Alright, everyone have a good night.
We'll see you next time, guys.